a choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a rock.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expounding reality.
A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding reality.
Welcome to Expanding Reality. I am your host, Brandon Thomas, on this incredibly cool part 2 of the family tree of reality. Just the plot thickens here, guys. Polymath Jenny goes far, far down this rabbit hole, and we join her with a smile. So, highly recommend that you check out the video version of this located down in the show description. It is hosted completely for free, as well as a transcript over on Patreon. Now, if you'd like to support your favorite show and join the extra cool insider hangouts that we have going, as well as all the bonus content, then you can do so at Patreon, but you don't need to enjoy this episode. So check that link down there and enjoy. So I'm not going to spend any more time up here up top. There you go. Part 2 of the family tree of reality with Polymath Jenny.
Plasma storms, like the ones we just had. Normally they're in the low pinks, kind of in the greens. We'd have all this crazy stuff way up here, super high energy. What is going on with all of that energy? All the glow, these streamers, bunch of laser stuff going on, sparks. So we don't know a lot about it, amazingly. Why also isn't we have everything else drawn in the manuscripts? Why don't we have a shit ton of art with plasma, like not dragons in the sky, but it's not that hard to just smear some, they paint clouds and reflections on water all the time. So I'm wondering if it got amplified or just didn't happen for a long time. Tree rings, though, they found that there was a 1-year spike in carbon-14 over 14,000 years ago. Just for 1 year, the carbon-14 shot up really, really high, and not since then. And so that goes in hand with like the cataclysms we're talking about. Like if Atlantis sunk, that's kind of around that time. And I'm pretty sure that would cause worldwide detriment to a lot of things. If the carbon-14 shoots up, you're going to get all of the properties shifting of the rocks that are already on the surface. Food and weather might change. That's kind of where you go down in a cave and you draw in the scorched glass, right? Seems about that time. Which brings me to the vajra, of course.
Fucking vajra.
Sit here
I knew
and
you were
talk
going to bring this
about
up.
We have to.
You have to, dude. You have to.
This is your Earth soul going into the quantum side. Like this is your plasma. This is like the ultimate weapon. I like how they Mandelbrot fractals, I guess, like, right?
Absolutely.
I liked how the double moon thing was giving me the effect of the vajra. And then I was thinking if the moon's reflection, like if it was like an Earth core and then like other Earth core, like you'd put Eve and Lilith together and they're like just shooting shit out, and all the planets in the front and back are just getting it. So I don't know why they kept equating it to that. Like, why did the gods always have it unless it's a thunderbolt thing?
Right. The Zeus is, yeah.
But for it to be so prevalent on Earth, it's not a fairy tale of like, well, there's a guy who comes down your ceiling and he does this. This story's too similar from different cultures that they've seen it happening. So I have to believe that something's originating with the Earth itself, that they're giving this like godlike power to it. They don't draw planets in the sky holding the vajra. Like it's only some creature standing on Earth and being the power that's there, like holding it. Plasma shielding removes prior magnetization record from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Damn.
I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if like water didn't want to be a water molecule because it was in a bad mood one day. Like the Earth is like, oh, fuck me, right? I'll just okay. Tell me when you're done. What the hell? So, I mean, maybe this is why the Four Corners looks the way it does, because everything to the east and the west, like everything around it looks good. Why do we have a desert just right there when it's not particularly hot and dry? There's tons of hot springs everywhere. If they had more access to the surface, they could pull up there and cool down. There's water here, a shit ton. Maybe it's just all petrified under a glass layer, living on a giant Coke bottle bottom. Covered in sand.
Yeah, like there are these own micro worlds there. With who knows what kind of creatures in there as well.
Right? And then also because you've introduced or removed this, that's also why have you looked up mining? Like all of Nevada and corner of New Mexico is just mining all kinds of gems. People just walk along the side of the highway letting their dog piss, and they just find a garnet the size of a gumball.
Yes.
So maybe the vajra is the god that goes around seeding the wood, because you could have mineralized or not, Maybe it's a lot easier for a crystal to grow if there's not a giant magnetic lodestone rolling toward it, So, of course, back to the moon, because it's birthing. If there's all these solar storms going on, then it wouldn't just be on our planet. And these look like the ablation holes from the laser shots. They look the same way and had the same impact, and then they would stay shallow. I guess they wouldn't make a huge cave system if the moon were more of a dense material. Maybe the moon was already scorched itself, so it's just hitting a glass surface. The moon's not solid because you say it's like it rings like a bell. Sometimes the planets ring like a bell. What's weird is I think it was last year, the year before, all of the planets were ringing. So it's like, what does that represent? Are those like the angels' horns, or like what kind of a ringing? Why are they all ringing? Like they're vibrating. They're like bells. What hit them? What can hit them? It didn't knock them off their orbit. So a frequency is being emitted to vibrate them like a singing bowl, maybe.
Yeah, like an instrument being tuned and played from the spirit realm.
And then like that video, Electric Universe Eyes, how I told you he just keeps hitting sand, different frequencies and volts, sees what happens. Some of this stuff is what happens. He hits it with different widths and sees what occurs. Sometimes he gets round ones. Sometimes they have a little bit of an edge to them.
Those look exactly like moon craters.
Right. So when he does them in different sediments, they'll go to different depths, but sometimes those other ones, it hits the ground. It doesn't want to go down like a plasma chute. It does spider legs, and it just like dances on the surface. Like when you put your hand on the plasma ball at Spencer's and it spreads out. So it shoots down, it lands like a spider coming down from a web, drops its legs, and then just dances really fast on the surface. And just makes the same shallow pitter-patter kind of pattern.
Because that's what they say about the moon, right? Is that the craters are all the same depth, but they're dramatically different sizes, but they all stop at the same depth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was wondering if like water was pulling up from something and just, it got to the surface, was pulling a water thing. But when I was rewatching one of his videos, I was like, son of a bitch, it's a little like a tap dancing kind of like the way it stays on the surface, like it's scuttling, like it does a crab kind of shape.
Yeah.
Oh, getting into moon dust. Never do it, not even once.
It's a gateway. Yeah, don't do it, kids.
More quasi crystal weirdness. So boulders on the moon have a reflective quality to it. Like it's shining like glittery rocks. And so magnetic anomalies can cause these things and make it reflect. What if there's planets out there that just aren't reflective enough because they're out of the zone of getting hit by electromagnetic forces, or they're made of whatever substance that just isn't attracting it, and so therefore they always have an invisibility shield. Like, what if we only see the planets because we're looking at the consequence of a wound?
Yeah, like the effects of wind, not wind itself.
So the quasi crystals are doing weird things up there. Long range ferromagnetic and anti-ferromagnetic orders. So is that what is keeping the moon in Earth's orbit and not, wanting to be like wandering off when we're in distance of another planet? It's almost like it's a tethering, like the strong force and weak force, like ferromagnetism, ferrovaltricity is all just kind of a new venue here, let alone on the moon. So I was wondering if that's why we don't see moons orbiting other planets until all of a sudden it seems to appear one day, but maybe some electrical charge occurred to
make
give
it
it
visible.
Yeah.
To make it literally visible to your eyes. Which would then, sort of give you a nod to what I said earlier about the planets being discovered and then changes happening in humankind. Like the humanity itself changed as we discovered further out planets. Almost like they were switched on and we were switched on too. Like a change occurred.
Yeah. Every force is like applying an effect or forcing a reaction. Yeah. So then, if there's like a really active birth season and then everyone's just like losing their mind because they can't think straight, but like they're literally just like being confused by waves constantly.
Yeah, or expanding. Expansion's a jarring, nauseating process as well. It can feel like you're going backwards, but you're expanding and absorbing more things at a higher rate. So it's, dramatic.
Ultima Thule, a 22-mile-long snowman that formed in the Kuiper Belt. All of these are concretions that formed on Earth by conglomerating together. Maybe that just recently got kicked out and isn't near anything to like run into each other. It's kind of floating aimlessly. It's like deciding whether it wants to Mercury or not. More moon stuff. So, I think that slide's next. The part of the crater that I was trying to figure out where the moon would have come from on Earth, if we take into consideration that once, as we've learned, these really dotted type of rocks continue to grow when they dislodge, then the moon would keep expanding. Then the crater wouldn't have to be as large as the moon is now. The crater would have to be as large as the moon was however many years ago.
Yep.
So all of the moon is the same, except for this area, the creep terrain. So as soon as I seen that, I'm like, this is one of those rocks that grew in the pool, like the avocado style. And there wasn't that much water. It just only went up to the bottom, and that's all it needed. It's just that one contact to leach everything through. So remember, like the calcium tooth or whatever, it just held on the bottom.
Yeah.
But if there's, you have the ball, the egg there, and you only have a little bit of water that only covers the bottom. So then you're like a toddler sitting in the kiddie pool, but you're still getting all your nutrition through the bottom. Because everything that exists right here in this shape that's kind of Alaska-y is what it has in common with the Earth.
Damn.
Namely, the same minerals that are found in this specific crater in Greenland.
Damn.
Pleistocene is what they're estimating this at. But it skips a lot.
Well, does that line up with your 3rd century BCE sort of observation of when the moon happened? And where does it come into place to the balls that they found in Ireland, right? Scotland, Ireland, the 3 balls that went up? Do you think it's the same thing or just different planets that were birthing out that were just happening and that a few others just kind of shagged ass? Does it look like a sun came by and picked a couple of them up and then moved off? Like it's almost like they were birthed here but then got a ride somewhere else, Like they were abducted. Like those planets that we pooped out got abducted, but they kept the moon here because they were like, no, the lizard turds got that. Yeah.
I gotta file an Amber Alert. Okay, what is it? The whole moon.
The moon. No, it's up there, sir. No, there were 2 more. Sun came by and grabbed him and shagged ass.
I'm looking for my chart for the Pleistocene.
So you're saying that this crater is the same size as the mares on the moon that share the properties with Earth? That area on the moon on that picture before.
I don't remember where are we at with that chart. I was trying to look up when the Pleistocene was. I think Pleistocene was a million and a half years ago.
Oh, okay. So they would have, maybe it was a different moon then. Maybe,
Well,
a few things have been born and jacked, but they left the moon we have now because it's kind of shitty. They were like, just leave it there. It sucks.
That's actually the grandchild.
Yeah, no, we don't know.
That other one, how wide was this?
Because it'd be interesting if that green area there was the size of that crater, right?
Well, this would have been expanding. It would have been equidistantly kind of expanding a little bit because the crater was 300 miles, 300 meters deep, 31 wide. And you can see it has this curvature here. It's like shallow but curving out really wide, like a little saucer to hold up something much larger.
Like that, like those divots in the back shot you have here.
Yes.
Yes.
Without the information. Why don't they have that down? I need to find out.
That's okay, because it's interesting, as you said, it grew. I mean, and obviously there's different colors going on there, but it is interesting that if it shares those minerals that, it'd probably be roughly the same size, right? As that area where it shares the same minerals as Earth. It just may have, expanded as well as it was traveling off, but it's interesting to think that came from there, just like your avocado egg thing.
It seems like you would be able to, if the total surface area of expansion was proportional to the spot of expansion, then at least that would get us somewhere for sure.
Yeah.
This is the other one that I showed you for the first time. The Maki, god of fertility. Now people keep saying these are alien eyes, but I'm like, why does it mean god of fertility? And there's a separation, and it's located in the biggest fucking crater right here.
Yeah, it looks like cellular mitosis.
Look at the size of the island versus the crater. Okay, this was not just, there's not an underwater volcano making mountains. This was a massive bit of, like, this looks like Ireland on the side, and it's like broken off. And this hasn't gone away, so I must assume that this has some kind of glass edge to it also. This should be all weathered away. You can see in here the dirt is going down with the rain and collecting in a circle. This should be weathering away if the ocean's hitting it right there. And why would the ocean chop it in this like hard angled hex pattern? That's not how oceans work. This is Easter Island. It's in the middle of nowhere. This should be gone right now.
It makes me think that something much, much, much larger, like a larger entity, cut the ground there to kind of pry that ball out. Because even on the former slide with the arcs that go around the giant tree stump, it sort of looks like the same as well. It's cut right in half. And almost like that's how you would get to it, if you wanted to get something under it to pry it out.
I kept noticing that pattern too, and we're going to get there.
Fuck, yes, we are.
But just, so you can walk. Like, if there was a person on there wearing a really bright colored outfit, you'd be able to see them. This is, it's an island, but it's still small. Located so close or so far out in the middle of the ocean here, you have to zoom in so close and you still won't see a spot. You just have to keep zooming into ocean, and then all of a sudden you'll see a little, and you could zoom in like 3 times, and then that's it, you're there. So if you search for the crater, is it Ranu cow? I don't remember how to pronounce all these things. But this happened during the same time up here, Pleistocene. I don't know the chemical makeup of this, but Easter Island is so far from Greenland. I mean, at this point, they could have very much the same elements. The 2 balls could have began at the same part in the core of the Earth and just went separate directions, I guess, at the polarity, right?
Yeah, almost like that make or maki in the bottom is sort of depicting there, the separation of 2 bodies.
Like, why would you put that around a crater? It's so far out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, this would be like part of Atlantis or something from that kind of time period.
Yeah.
But what I found interesting, and the reason I made this such a large, wide red fork, is if you look, the ocean floor, it's kind of following these lines, like dragging circles, giant ass dragging circle. And then look at this shape. It's cracking, goes up 90 degrees, up 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees. Nothing cracks in corners and squares like this that I know of, except wood.
So you're saying this whole bitch was a tree?
That's what the people been telling us since forever, right?
Damn. And if you look at a tree stump that's been cut, it'll have those smaller trees growing on top of it. So it's almost like all of our trees were grown on top of the stumps that were, I don't know, laser plasma chopped down at the same time to the same height while balls were being shitted out of the planet. It's fascinating.
What I thought it was interesting about Maki Maki is that it's supposed to be out in the orbit of Neptune, but we have a Maki Maki island, and the stats of Maki Maki kind of match Earth stats. So what was it made of if it ended up out by, what did I just say? Neptune. Or is Neptune producing dense moons with stats of Earth? And then how would an island on Earth name an island after? So I'm like, did this fling just so far? Like that would make a whole continent disappear, but just the hole was small, just kicked it out. It just ripped the ground up.
Yeah, maybe it didn't sink into the sea. Maybe it was jettisoned off, right?
This squared pattern here doesn't happen from wood cracking down. Though that happens when planks go up. So that's why I made this large Lego hand where there's an uplift and this giant swipe right in the middle of what's going on here. Life before the moon. I was like, I got to revisit the myths.
Love this.
I'm so far left. I don't know. And then I find out there was people that lived in Greece before there was a moon, again, 4th century, but they were called the portal Selines, the light gate. Nobody knows where they came from. They were just there. So people with no history showed up at the same time the moon did. And the people's names are light gate,
portal.
brightness gate, door,
Yeah.
a gleaming door. Moon people much?
Man, now
So
you
that
think of
would bring
moon-eyed
it
people,
into
you
us.
think of...
If the moon was a ship that came in and its new force changed our magnetosphere, Earth could have still threw out 2 moons, but like threw them out.
Yeah, it like came in and replaced those 2 we saw earlier depicted.
But that doesn't explain how that side of the moon matches the Greenland composition unless it landed on Earth to let its people out at Greece.
Ooh, like those balls that landed and rolled around on the ground for a little bit and then shagged ass. You know, and you hear this a lot too about stone or rock UFOs, that they're actually sort of stone and rock. Oumuamua is one of these things that Avi Loeb discovered. It sort of looks like a big ass, rock, but he also said it could be a spaceship. But I mean, then you take things like the hollowed out planetoid theory, like that Earth, or that the moon was brought here rather, and that's kind of a brilliant way to traverse what we're told is space with all those micrometeors and everything out there, that it's sort of got its shell to where it can withstand that anyway. So you can actually drive the thing over here almost like with a shield around it. That doesn't, in my mind, explain how the craters are all different sizes but at the same depth. But I think it's very interesting when you start talking about this kind of shit for sure.
So you'd mentioned the Earth being like an intelligent kind of like I don't know if he said device or machine or something like that. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get there. What if someone stuck the moon there, and they're like, I'm just going to add a turbo to this car and we're just going to make shit faster. It's just
Damn.
now it's just popping out stuff all the time. So now the moon showed up and things are going crazy in the sky. Now we have black moons, we have dragons now, like things are going off. There's earthquakes around, like it changed something for sure. If you found out that, a planet was capable of making gold, but instead it was throwing out those ringwoodite water things and like hydrogen, you're like, I don't want that. I don't want that.
But if we park this over here, it has the influence to make it spit gold, which then, calls to the Nibiru 12th planet, Anunnaki, Zechariah Sitchin's work about that the Sumerian tablets he said he decoded. What he got off of it is that we were here to mine gold or put here to mine gold, but there's still a gold correlation between that and this mysterious planet X and the appearance of our moon now. Fascinating. So do you think that really planet X has been here all along and it's called the moon?
Well, there's the argument of what is it made of? Maybe we can't see it because it's not illuminated yet.
Right. And it's the fact that that we're told that it's phase locked as well is very interesting, that you can only see one side of it. So, I mean, in theory, it could just be a damn hologram, with, I don't know, lizard turd standing right behind it, and that thing is just something we see.
Well,
like
I would hope to God, if you're pulling a planet around, you know how to put the parking brake on.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they're just as shit at stuff as we are, where you just have assholes who have bad days and they're like, oh, I got to fucking move this planet today. Ugh. And they're just off,
Put a
Maybe it's his
sticker on
first day or
my
something.
emergency brake that says phase lock.
Yeah, like Dad with the pedal over there. Yeah.
Because this goes back to then the Titan thing, kind of meteorites that are compositionally similar to native rock. Why are the foreign things coming to us made of the same things? And not just on the surface, it didn't come off of our surface and go back. The first one that's listed here is olivine. Olivine is what the ringwoodite was originally classified as, that exists far down underneath the surface of the crust and is absorbing the hydrogen in the water. So,
It looks like skin too, like leather, dried out leather or something.
Right, like that was on a different. That didn't get hit by plasma. It's not glass. Like that had to sit in an oven for a while. That's like your pizza's burnt, bro.
Take it out, dude. Yeah.
So would that be just like from Mars or something like that then? Where they said like scorched things went off and it used to be water. I thought that was like, why? Then the foreign things aren't really that foreign to us, though, if they're matching things from our planet. But yeah, their outer surface doesn't have anything that our planet did. Then maybe it kicked it out and then like got zapped in like a force field and just like, boop, you go home now. And it's like, okay.
Like a drone or something. It sent it out to get better, and to come back better. Almost like pollinating. It just, it sent a piece of itself out to be pollinated to come back and re-pollinate itself for some reason.
Yeah, then you have stuff like this. Okay, why would, I don't know if this is the 10th century maybe, why would you be making stuff like this then? Unless like, okay, yeah, God created everything and the planets and this seems really balanced. Everything is really balanced. But adding things in here, like on these different lines, it seems like you have an understanding of compositionally, when back then shouldn't it be a bunch of people running around a field going, there's just rocks flying to the sky.
Yes. I would think so.
If that's the case, then you're like inserting things onto their field, their whatever, their elliptical or whatever around the sun. So I was thinking of if God was putting things in, there's Adam and Eve created, and then Lilith rebelled, she went away, but Eve ate the apple. She did something to the core to create a field around her, maybe. Like I'm just thinking of things that are apple shaped in comparison to this. Would this be why Lilith was not obeying Adam's rules? She didn't want to be ruled by man. She didn't want to orbit. She refused the orbit. So it's not like she was like bad. She was just like not the correct polarity for the orbit. So Eve had to come in and She was made of Adam's rib, because the magnetic fields, each planet, the ribs will be, yeah. So then between two ribs, another existence has to be kind of placed there. And again with this mineral, gas, ice, mineral. So how do we went full circle here? But we can't just go there and live there. These are totally different temperatures, but same mineral compositions, just in a different form.
Again, I'm thinking of the process of when I worked in alcohol distribution. I became really good friends with these people at a distillery, and they told me about the process of making this whiskey, right? And they always have their heads and tails, which would be the first bit that gets cut out because it's too concentrated. It gives a certain, it has a certain element to it where it's too much or not enough alcohol. I forget which one. And they pull the heads, they distill everything down. What's in the middle is perfect, and then they pull the tails, the last little bit that comes out as well. So it sort of shares this ideology that the very beginning and very end is going to mark what you get in the middle. It's just really interesting. This as above, so below on all scales here.
So then that would just be like, Pluto's the first pancake, and then
exactly,
the
first
Mercury
pancake,
all
last
over
pancake.
again.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I'm like. This is like kind of, I guess it's the Goldilocks zone. So we evolve past the mineral into the gas. Ice, I guess, would be your solid. You get the fleshy stuff in the middle. So then what does that mean? Are we moving out of our Goldilocks zone? Like, what's the evolution taking place here,
Or are we cycling back around and going to start producing gas planets? Which, what does that do to this factory? Earth as a factory for planets.
Bro.
Yeah, yeah. It's because it has to change the factory to make something different. I fucking guess, man. That's what we're here for, right? It's really interesting, though, to think of this process and just starting over, because we have an example, almost like a Rosetta Stone of that. Here's an earlier, here's what we have, and then here's the later. And it sort of, it resets, which is 3 phases, by the way. You had your mineral, ice, and then gas. So you have 3, which is, again, the Trinity. It's interesting.
Oh, yeah. I end up getting, I'm comparing like the Sri Yantra to quantum. And I got to use the 3 spheres, of course, the 3 circles, the 3 loops.
Absolutely.
So I made a list of all the planets here because I'm like, what are they made of? What are they all made of? Pretty much the same shit. Pretty similar to the same shit. It's just cooked different ways. So they're all little conglomerates and figure out, which one makes the best planet propellant, which one makes the best invisibility cloaking, which one makes the best gold miners.
And then you would think that, if this is all going on and all of that maybe it's not what they say to the extent that they're saying it. And I'd say the they that keeps us very smaller attempts to. And I think that Earth isn't the only habitable place, but that we have a variety of places that offer a variety of different environments for you here. And maybe all of them are traversable by us because, again, if we're doing the as above, so below thing, it's all from here anyway. So maybe, I don't know. It just makes me think that nothing out there, if there is an out there, is what they're telling us at all. Like at all. And then I'm thinking of the, Operation Solar Warden and the secret space programs and all those claims that they have bases on like all the planets and the moons and all kinds of shit. And it's just really interesting when you think that it's more of a welcoming place.
Well, I've thought of like, what if you wanted to be like the ultimate experiencer of the universe, you would have to be like receptive to all the forms of communication.
Be in love with all the retrogrades on our stillborns. She'll love all of it, right?
So like what you just have to like go through your form. Okay, like we know when there's channeling, sometimes there's channeling. And like, oh, what's it like on your planet? Or what's your emotion if this happens? Like, no, like we don't have time for emotions. We don't deal with emotions. But it's not like they're like cold and cut off. It's like the logic part still there. Like, what if like their density is not enough to feel how shitty it feels to be in a bad mood? It's like the thought moves through you. When someone else is telling you about their bad day, that's your ceiling of how to experience it because you're in like a semi-gas ice state. But your consciousness, because of that, your consciousness has a broader antenna And so like all these higher ups, they're on 3 different planets, and like, what's your ship look like? And they're like, ship?
Yeah. That's so
How are we
wild.
communicating with these things that aren't dense? How can things be like 2-dimensional, like a hologram? Like a hologram is the life form and not a Project Bluebeam thing.
Fucking A.
Hmm.
Fucking A. It's interesting too, that hexagonal configuration of your ring woodite earlier that you were talking about also just reminded me of the pole on Saturn, right? That hexagonal cube turned into thing, and that matches the same molecular shape, that hexagonal structure, that it does on the pole of Saturn, as what is found to be all of Earth. It's just really interesting.
I've wondered if their poles are making those shape, then wonder if maybe that type of structural formation isn't possible on their planet.
Ooh,
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because
we don't see planets that shape. Yeah, it's really interesting, and I think it's got, I don't know. I think a lot of things. It's just interesting to see now what's being tied together as you're presenting some of this stuff.
When I was out of body, so after my OBE, I've never had alien experiences until after that, and I didn't really care to like have a conversation with them, because the stuff they were asking me, it was like, dude, this is child's play shit. Like, if this had happened before the OBE, we'd be having a conversation right now. But like, no, you should know the answers to these questions already. If you're asking me, and who told me probably doesn't want to talk to you. It's kind of the feeling that I got.
Yeah.
Which I thought was like an odd feeling. I just met these people. And by the way, I'm looking at Earth and talking to them. Whatever. I walked into that situation like, holy shit, I'm in a spaceship. I'm like, no, I have authority here. And they're just like, motherfucker. So when that was going on, I had this, everyone's always like, oh, they can read your thoughts and stuff. But they can't. There's a way that there's like a front section that they can, and the back section where I have my own thoughts. I just went through the ceiling of their ship and left. I was like, I'm done with the conversation. I just like, my people need me and I'm out. And then when I went up and I seen like space, the way like I guess NASA publishes stuff, where Earth was over there, but I couldn't see other planets. I couldn't see the moon, and I wasn't standing on anything. I was just like, I had no feet. I was just like in the omnipresence of something. I don't know, flying around. I just took off like fast in the speed of light. Earth disappeared so fast that it became our solar system. It disappeared so fast, and it was just pitch black. And then I was going through this really viscous thing. Like I was hauling ass in a black nothingness with the feeling of flying very, very quickly over me without having sensation. It was weird. When all of a sudden it was like throwing a dart into Jello that has been sitting in the fridge without a lid on, and it's like ballistics gel. I got stuck in it, and like I had to like crawl, like swim hard out of it. Like I had resistance to try and swim. I'm like, what? It's just clear space. I'm like, why am I fighting this clear space? Then when I got past that, it's like I came to, you've seen the video where there's like an underwater, but it's like 2 densities of water, right? Yes. I came to the surface of something like that. And when I came to the surface there were structures that were like made out of like neon gases, kind of. And they were making really complex shapes, like tartaries, like family crests. And there was like this crystal geode thing over there. And when I like looked down into the water, like, you're just like bobbing on the surface, I could kind of see the blob below me. And so I kind of think I started calling it the Oort cloud. I swam through the jello viscousness of clear ballistics gel to get out of the Oort cloud. And within the Oort cloud is all the things that we know about off Earth. Outside of Oort cloud is, you left the city and there's other things going on out there. There's like a different life form and crystalline growths, like an inverted geode. So I started referring to the Oort cloud as a barrier of laws. The Oort cloud is the container that holds the fabric of space in its place. And then I seen this side right nodule. And, you know, it's like cut in half and it has a plane on it and like a burger top and a burger bottom, just like this with the little things in the middle. It's like, oh, it's, you know, as above, so below. We got a little micro universe here. Lunar meteorites. Now, why does this stuff look like it's been sitting on the edge of a hot spring? And it's kind of got that cracked glass pattern as the other one, but this one actually looks glass. This one doesn't look like leathery. This doesn't look like bad pizza.
Yeah.
But the composition of it, and again, olivine. The same thing as the ringwoodite, but the green version. So this was baked in a very, very hot temperature under the crust. Then how did it get out? It's so smooth and like it's like a thin ceramic glaze on there of like algae or something. And of course, all the composition is between Earth and the moon. So again, I'm like, okay, well then like the moon's got to be from the Earth then. Like they keep sharing things back and forth in wildly different states, and other planets don't do that. What are we looking at here? Okay, so I was wondering if it's not, what else is causing things to move here? We're not dealing with gravity, and we're not dealing with electromagnetism. Then we have plasma to ask for. But I was concerned about all of these CERN is smashing particles together, and we have a shit ton of observation places around the world observing incoming space junk. Neutrino detectors are everywhere, like down at in the Arctic, in the ice, really deep into the mantle, because neutrinos can go through solid matter and not necessarily ping on anything, but they can cling to, was it quantum graphene dots or something like that? Remember I was talking about the graphene and 5 layers can create a new type of force?
Right.
So if there's a bunch of space weather picking up, then we're just getting blasted by wild cards. And it's not like we can shield the plasma from fucking with our iron and demagnetizing a whole state. Neutrinos, what are we going to do? We can't like block those. So I was trying to see like where they're fixated at. Are they being attracted to one part of the Earth or not? And they kind of concentrate a little bit over Russia and India, and then they're over around on the side of Australia and in this weird crux of Africa, where a tree used to be, I suppose. But this is like around the equator in these larger blobs where the actual neutrinos are coming in. They're hitting in the northern hemisphere in these wide spots and in a conical shape, pinpointing on the southern side of Earth in these exact smaller dots next to the Antarctic. And this would be the tail of South America flicking up. So you have like optics. You have 3 lasers coming in to triangulate on the south end of Earth. So this isn't stuff just flying through space. This is spotlights on a stage.
Yes. And lights like that can create a hologram, right? Huh.
So then I'm looking around. I'm like, I need to know more about what Earth is shaped like here. Why are these concentrated here? Are they aiming for the research centers? Some are in the area, some are not. So guess not. Is it just pollution? Some's in the area, some's not. Are there secret underground laboratories in all the cities on
Fuck
this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But why would they be going to the ball? This seems so pointed. It's like a ball is just on like a golf tee.
Yeah, like it's sitting on a stand or something with 3 points that are touching it and providing it with the energy it needs to render itself. And it's interesting that it is sort of in that configuration as well. The 3, again, the Trinity.
Right. So I'm like, where are these things coming from? What's blasting us? These are the giant Nerf guns, maybe spitting out the neutrinos. And the shape started to be a little curious to me too, because remember how the islands just keep getting chopped right in half at the core?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's a weird pattern, like as above, so below, right?
Well, it's
So
interesting because if you look at half of that, and you can imagine that the center line would cut it in half at some point from it being distributed in that pattern, then yes, you would get that exact thing. You'd get these interesting organic tree-looking things that were just split in half by a plasma or something.
and so the yellow slightly widens out at the tip, and if you just continue that line, it would be a small cone.
Right.
That would
Which
give
it's
us
all about
kinda like
cones.
the north and south kind of opening, or maybe that 23-degree tilt of difference that like gave us an opening when we moved away from the sun, or we had to move away from the sun so that our whatever this is wouldn't interfere with its. Maybe.
Yeah.
And this is what the center of our galaxy looks like sideways. And I was like, the shape, I took this image of a dipole magnet, and I'm like, it just follows it. The cloud pattern, is it an explosion, or is it tesseracting into itself?
Damn. I'm going to go with yours. I think tesseracting into itself sounds way cooler. But it does
So
match up
this
with the graph
one-
that you put, for sure.
This is giving a constant in-out wave process of recycling, handing out treats, picking up the plates. Cool. So if Earth has hot spots of neutrinos, surely that cloud we just looked at does. So in the middle of the solar system, there is that Fermi bubble, which is kind of what the little yellow guy here. And then this swirl cloud with the long arms is like going around, just cleaning things up in the center. And you get like this kind of like open gap that just keeps things spaced. And like this is like a machine going around, moving it around here. Everything's kind of put in its place, and it looks kind of like chaotic, but they must be like the conglomerations that look like the Robotnik that was not an asteroid or a meteorite flying around, right?
Yeah.
So loosely based, this kind of thing is going on where it's hitting all these scattering points, and then isolating at the pinpoint on the bottom. But it's like this is happening from 3 different directions.
Right.
We're being told that all these particles can only come from something like this without it being something close enough to like take us out. Because we're not repelling these things away. We're just like getting hit with them the whole time. So I'm like, hold on. If New Mexico can lose its magnetization by getting hit with lightning, what the fuck does this do?
Yeah. It almost structures and organizes, but can destroy at the same time. Because it's holding everything together. Is this like a strong nuclear force here that's being created by this to just hold everything together like that? Because it seems like the neutrinos almost have an inbox where they know where they're going to go, but you're sort of shotgun blasted from all these directions, but they conglomerate and coagulate at these specific points consistently, almost like they're drawn there. Like, again, an inbox, like you send an email to the correct inbox, it only goes there, not to all the inboxes in the world.
So yeah, so how do we live in a completely chaotic, miraculous Big Bang world if that's what's going on here? So I'm like, what's going on? Are they detecting them? Where are they detecting? Sometimes they fly through here and don't even get detected. Look how big this thing is. They just chopped a big hole out of the ice and put, what is it, 8 Eiffel Towers down in there with these long strings with these giant orbs that are supposed to be detecting all this stuff being shot at us.
Wow.
And I don't know if we have like 11 or 12 of these detecting stations all around the world. They're trying to pinpoint the angles that everything's coming in at and what kind it is.
The
And
shape
they
is an
always
interesting
wanna
choice.
put it in like water or surrounded in like these lights or bubble things. So does that speak to the viscous stuff I had to swim through to get out of space, is it like frozen water? Are you mimicking the density of the salinity? So why do you keep flying rockets up if you know that it can't, like, I don't know what's going on here.
The optics, just to make you think space is a thing. Do you see it's a hexagon shape? The overall configuration layout of all those independent neutrino detectors, they're all arranged in a hexagon.
Yes. These ones, I think they're trying to capture, I think they're just trying to get the faceted angles of it. They're trying to get, like, locate the vertices of, because if they're all pinpointed at the bottom of the Earth, can you not, that this isn't totally a scatter plot then? Because then you would detect stuff like going out and then being pulled in, but it's, sometimes they catch and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't detect them, but the hot spot's getting hit, and we have our Aurora is going crazy. So that, I don't know if they're like, it has to interfere with something to, or are we not observing it? Have we evolved ourselves out of the body part that senses this because it hasn't happened in a while? So it was interesting. They hit it and they light up. It just kind of reminded me of like a shooting star.
Yeah.
Just for a second. And they leave a trace of blue light. So is that where our blue light's coming from? Because, like, what is making the blue light?
Blue light's very interesting.
And it's not ringwoodite, because that's underneath a lot of sediment and solid stuff. Here we go. Yeah, there's I think there was 11 of them. I might not have them all. They're still building more, right? Yeah. So there's one in Russia, Italy, Japan, Canada, France, Korea, another one in China, Italy, and another in Japan. But yeah, they're all over. So it's not that all these particles are flying to these parts of the Earth because the machine's instigating it. And also, these aren't the Hadron Colliders. And those Hadron Colliders aren't always where the hot spots of the particles are. But they'll do this. They'll come through and they'll just go through the entirety of Earth. And they land on those 3 points somewhere around the Arctic. I think one was got really, really close to Chile, but they like it down here. I'm like, what's around this little stump? What's inside? Show me your secrets. So there is an anomaly going on outside of South America. And I was wondering if the birth thing was what was attracting the neutrinos, but the neutrinos are going to different spots. This is one of the birth spots I suspected. But if the Earth's magnetic field is weakening, then that tells us the material, if it's ejecting something, it's pushing out something non-magnetic and huge, which means the magnetic core is doing something. The core is probably what's attracting the things then, because then there's this other spot up in India that has a giant hole being sucked down into it. I'm like, oh, it's all the chemicals and manufacturing from China. But the topography almost looks like if you ripped a giant tree stump out of the ground and left the hole. It sinks in really deep right here. This blue dot that just gets really deep and black like a pit. Looks like he's pulled a stem out of an apple.
Like one of those thorns, the tusk things that you were mentioning earlier, those little tiny things. You know, that's where a tusk would be, right? That grew everything around it. The silica tusk things you were showing us earlier.
So, you know how sometimes in the Mason stuff, north is actually east. So
Yes.
India is the east. So like an umbilical cord to the sun, to its core, its belly button, its navel.
Damn.
So that I'm like, well, then does the shape itself morph? We just have like spheres, but we're not really shown the poles. We can see that this is all dipped down, but we don't, it's covered in water and it still maintains a circle. Like, I don't understand here. What's the actual shape? Then if it's just water that maintains the circle, how can we keep track of if the tectonic plates are moving? How do we get that solid ball? I'm like, how do we do this? Let's talk about the X points again. Yeah, portals are real. University of Iowa. That's what it was. If you want to read about the X points. I was trying to get forward in this. I'm like, I'm not another rabbit hole. Not
Aren't they also
today,
called
Steve.
Lagrange points?
I wanted to read more about them because I think you have this power. It's like the matter of opening a portal is just the amount of power concentrated at one time. It's not like a question of bending the lattice of reality. So solidifying plasma, we're crystalline. Liquid crystals are the trippiest shit.
They're so cool.
So this is, this is how Earth works. Pretty simple, right?
Yeah. Jesus.
Like, sure, it does all these mechanisms. Okay, things like the different waterways and flow patterns inside. Maybe the core actually looks like this, like the rosy cross. It looks like a rosebud with all the checkerboard on it.
Yeah.
What I thought was interesting about this, I found this on a website. Melinda Green created these Mandelbrot set generators. And when she was trying to create one in a fourth dimensional pattern, the way that we take 3-dimensional and make it 2D, she wanted to make 4D, 3D. And one of her images came out like this. Faroe Islands. I was like, what do we do? Okay, so this is just, let's think of everything as bits now then.
Yeah.
They're trees. Trees are just the bits that we're putting together. And again, this is like maki. This is cut down a little lower. You could see this is higher with the peaks. That black line around here is what we're doing. This is not rubbed down. There's just straight out grass and stuff growing out here. But again, why is everything chopped off at the same height? And why would you have to build a pyramid when all you have to do is walk in a circle and take one block off and make another lap?
Yeah.
They kick those bitches down the wall. Why are we carrying stuff uphill? Liquid crystals. So I was getting blood work at my doctor's office once, and I felt like I was going to pass out, but I didn't say anything because I was like a bug looking at a light. Imagine just like a regular 10 by 10 room. There's a door open, right? If there was a fog machine in the hallway, the fog would have to go around the wall into the open door, right? If I were hallucinating just a pattern, the pattern would be in front of the wall. It wouldn't have a spatial, you know what I mean? The barriers wouldn't matter because it's a problem with my eyes. I've seen this kind of pattern a little bit closer to how the bottom of a swimming pool looks, where the blue and the white kind of fleck, but it was something like, it looked like you could almost see shadow to it, like swirling like a fog machine way, but it had a liquidness about it. And I could feel myself about to pass out, and it had this light bluish, kind of like a bluish neon light, like electric blue, but sort of dark, illuminating, but not, more like glow in the dark kind of quality. And it didn't come through the walls. And I was like, wait, is there something in the hall? Like it had to go around and flow in through the doorway. It's like I was seeing ether or something. And I was like, that is not how the physics of that works. And I was like, so I'm not just, and then the next thing I know, 3 nurses were picking me up and said I had a seizure. But I remember that I'm like, dude, I was not just having like a vascular or like vision reaction, because it was like seeping down the hallway. It was like, ooh, an open door. And then it's like came in, and it was wafty and like feminine moving. I just like, water's the only way, but it has these kind of patterns to the liquid crystals where these are like little dots of magnetism, and just bending a magnetic field. And then that's where you get like the checkerboard patterns as to alternate, positive, negative, north, south. So if your poles are all over the place, you get plasma. You're a pole cloud. Then it snaps. It's always snapping all the time. So it's not like invisible or, effervescent magnetism. So I wondered if there's some point of losing consciousness that you can interact with whatever carries that force, why was it walking into the room? Why did it go through the walls? It was really weird. Then I had a whole thought about how our drywall is made out of gypsum, which is crystalline. I'm like, okay.
Damn.
Well, that's once again side questing all day.
Oh,
So
yeah.
seeing that flow made me think of just forms in general. So you can have lyotropic liquid crystals where you have all that plasma kind of property flowing through something like this. And I'm like, these are our rocks. These are our cell rocks with, not concretized rock in them yet. And then when they harden, then they come out of their little things. But this is how fluid works around the brain. These are like glial cells in your brain. They network with each other. Or how, blood and plasma, we fluid in our muscles and stuff to contract and move it. I'm like, we're just rocks with different tubes. So I got here, and then we have the different phases of it. Whether you're water or you're lipid, like it's the same thing. The only one that's different is kind of this Wagyu beef over here, and this is kind of like leaving the Oort cloud, but everything else is just a mirror image of each other. Like you learn one thing, the properties of the other inverted. And plants are this way, our flesh is this way, liquid crystals work the same way, stones, like you get small enough on a macro level, which Legos plug into which Legos. You can cross apply a lot of this logic. And then here it is all expressed in nature. Those same simple shapes make up everything. It's just depending on how much you extrude the shape or rotate it. I think it would be called the chiral pattern, I think. But yeah, all of this is solidified light. Trying to figure out the trajectory of these neutrinos. So we're liquefied light or solidified light. We have liquid crystals inside the tendons and nerves of our body, and they look at these little hexagon coin patterns healing the collagen in our tissue bundles, and all of that's communicating with each other. Just like is this how intuition works? The crystals on, in your collagen would be like the viscous crystal phase. So then we have piezoelectric effects on our bone. So the different waves. The way they work in our body and can communicate things. If they don't communicate a message, then they repel or attract. So if they're not being the messenger, then they're being the creator, and they express themselves all these different polarities, which brings us back to like our platonic solids and stuff. But just like all the lines and stuff that we're finding on the rocks and the tree stumps and stuff, all of our collagen, depending on what the collagen is used for, will align itself in the way that it needs to just for that function, but it's the exact same thing following a different strong or weak force. Lego. Earth Legos. Put that in a little kit for Jesus.
Yeah, love that.
So then that brings us to kind of circle back to the things that we've covered now. Now that we've gone through that, now we can look at what we're looking at. We can get everything with just a couple different mineral changes or add lightning. Just cook it. You got quasi crystals, magmatic inclusions, you got hydrocrystals in here. Some just have a vapor in it. Time crystals are down here somewhere. So then I'm like, building blocks. Okay, so you have the same ingredients, you just change the electromagnetics, but like, does the shape really actually make that big of a difference? Or is the shape a consequence of location? Because some of these minerals don't always grow that way. When they mineralize in wood, they say goodbye to their nature sometimes. Garnet will do it, pyrite will do it, but there's some that I kept finding that I couldn't figure out what mineral it was because it was a different shape every time I looked at it. And I'm like, okay, there's no way that the wood is making the crystal change its structure. Like, imagine if I went and made friends with like a black guy and it turned me into a cat. Like, that's not how does I think there's, I don't know this. I'm trying to like make sense of it and equate it to something. Just proximity doesn't necessarily alter everything, but you still have the same properties. You're just shaped entirely different. I'm like, what is the guiding structure here? Because the geolocation wasn't changing this. So I got to get into the diagnostic features. We got to diagnose some things. And here's that chaotic shape again of that like I think it was a dijet blasting stuff out. And then we account for this weird angle. And this is what we've seen when the trees are chopped in half. And this is what we're going to start noticing from here on out. Stuff with little divots in it. Couldn't tell if it was fossils or being electrocuted on the surface, because this is the inverted version of that. Like, it's pushing out little pillars of coins and mud. So we looked at the liquid crystal phase, and it's the mirror image. You know, it's just reversed end of it. So an animal didn't create this. Lightning didn't create this. It just chose to express itself, Eve versus Lilith. And then you get what would probably be identified as two totally different things. So I'm wondering if there is a rock out there that can give us squares or triangles like this, because I'm still told that doesn't exist in nature, and I'm looking for it. But every single time I see these jutty pill things, I can't help but think of trees and the things embedded in them that attract magnetic ores. So that shape again, this is a dipole antenna, and it shoots off on the side, the same way the particle interaction mostly aligns there and then shoots off and favors a side. Sometimes the crystals will grow that way. These are all the same crystal. How do you go from biblical angel ruby to Christmas tree topper?
Yeah.
To dipole antenna mimicking a particle interaction?
It does. It looks like a solidified comic explosion. Looks really cool. Wow.
And this looks like I've tried melting a bunch of beads together, like wildly different, not growing on anything, not growing on anything, not growing anything. Probably only exists because it stabled itself in the corner.
Right.
And we don't have an answer for this. These are natural, though. Remember, there was Egypt and somewhere else. They're like, we've been visited globally by the same people. How does everyone on these different countries have this giant thing? That's a natural formation. It looks like the lid of a tomb, kind of. But I mean, if that was naturally in the earth, wouldn't you just build a box and use it as a lid? I think they're using it as like a coffin or something in Egypt. But this little heart thing, this cross formation, they aren't as common to find now. So I wondered if these occurred during a pole shift.
Damn.
What drives that so specifically that way? Because you have specifically 4 90-degree, perfect hex, super starburst, and then I don't even know what this contorting like 5th dimensional thing is, or why it needs a garnet in the middle. But these ones are all natural. Ultramagnetism. So you can there's up or there's down, left or right. No. Magnetism isn't checkers anymore. Look at over here, we're playing chess. Antiferromagnet. See, this is what's got me concerned about these neutrinos. We haven't figured out how to get these under control. This just came out this year. We don't know. We have no idea. So, by the way, these are all the lines of incidents that you need to worry about with magnetism based on the shape or the structure or what's going on. And we don't know what any of that has to do with the other things. So we're just playing a random mode here. So it kind of reminded me of, in quantum, it's fermionic. Fermions don't like to exist in the same place together, the same state, unless they're coupled. But then when they're coupled, then they bring in a whole different level of interactions. So we're kind of forced to choose between two extremes. Like, I feel like we're upgrading and getting new elements or something in the earth, but it's not going to be as simple as, is this iron or is this cobalt? Like, what if like our solid state stuff just starts turning into an effervescence on Wednesdays?
Dude.
Like, we don't know what's going on here. So, epigenesis, after formation. Look at these rocks gathering and forming, conglomerating just like an egg. Just like a cell structure, these rocks go through these processes. What's interesting about these septarian ones is these have inclusions that are some other kind of biology, but they keep wanting to follow that line pattern that gets conical in the middle and gets a little wider, and a little pin in the middle. So are these like potential Earth things? Would this be something less likely to get flung out of Earth? Would this be something more likely to get flung out of Earth? Where would it even go? So these three at the top have been enhanced, but all of these other spheres have been an anomaly because they've been found around the world. And they're like, why is everyone just carving little spheres 5,000 years ago all around the world? Well, wouldn't it be easier to say that something happened to the world that made everything conglomerate in these slightly polyhedral spheroids?
Yeah, it's almost like they found them and started carving them in the negative space, almost like saw it as a canvas and just started carving it out.
Right. Yeah, these ones have that. But these I found all over the place. And these, look, that's like one step behind all the other concretions we've already been seeing falling out of the beach.
Yeah.
So what if like like that 1 year that carbon-14 gets really crazy, we start busting out, spherical polyhedrals, and maybe that's where garnet came from. They're just enhancing it at the top. But the current theory is still that all of these are just very eroded versions of that were all carved as art. These are cool too. So, filtration systems. When you get all your little orbs together that eat the end of the fossils, the weird thing is they will get next to each other in this grid-like pattern and not feed off of each other. A lot like planets agreeing to coexist in our solar system.
Yeah.
What's cool about these is they grow with ion exchange properties. They're not just leaching off of people. And so it made me think of a fish tank, a filtration system for salt water, but for minerals and sand. And like, I'm going to be the best mineral I can be. Again, they all take on one of the lyotropic or crystalline phases. So normal or reduce. That one's inside. So I guess reverse thence on that side. Exoskeleton, eternal skeleton, Wagyu beef, every single time.
So it looks like.
This is Jupiter, I think. Jupiter's atmosphere reminded me of that.
Mm-hmm. The Great Red Spot is just one of those.
Yeah, that's why I said a redheaded middle stepchild.
Yeah, yeah.
I found these were interesting. The way that the water droplets would be suspended in a frequency, like the phase locking, they put the piece of water or whatever there, and then if you added so many, they would pop apart into like this kind of pentahexa pattern. So I wonder if is Jupiter just trying to still phase lock? And like maybe once you get all these dialed in, that's when like you start producing in your cores there, or like how is it so like there's no clearly defined? How could a tree grow vertically if your vertical is like tie-dye?
Yeah, or maybe there are trees there that just look really gnarly because of the wind patterns. Kind of like how those trees will grow and like twist or grow up to a certain height and just all bend over and then keep growing again.
Jupiter only made one tree, and we used
One
it in that
tree.
movie Sleepy Hollow.
Fucking awesome tree though, man. Crushed it with just the one.
So I found this pretty cool. Like, how are these iron things moving through the Earth? It's dense. How is it moving through rock? How is anything moving through everything? It's a total traffic jam. Turns out iron atoms don't just sit there close together and they're packed. Researchers shown that they're moving around just as quickly. Like, they just zigzag between everything, almost as if like they're not just crashing into everything blindly. It's like they get just close to bend around it, almost like light bending, you know, like is it bifurcation process? I forget the word. But it can rush around and do all this crazy stuff and be conscious of other things to a degree and still then come out like this. Like, so is every facet equally aware? Or is it like, does the facet not impact the curvature of its field to know when to, to dip and dodge? This one I found cool because what do we see again? Giant chopped off slab with this cool wavy middle right here.
Yeah.
And instead of this being hidden in the ground, this looks like a dragon's eye that got plucked out from the top. And even though it's not underground on the top, it's still doing kind of this peely onion layer-ish thing.
Yeah, I was looking at that. Yeah.
So there could be a very fractionated, flaky type of rock or mineral, but I don't think that's what's going on here. Especially with all these things turned sideways, like this kind of looks like the half tree that was in, what was it, Ireland? Just got tilted sideways, like a log rolled over.
Yeah, yeah.
So the fact that it goes straight, and then you notice we have this one little veer, it kind of veers off. It never deviates wider than that. None of these ever do. These ones were cool because, like the lines were drawn on here to show, it seems like this came from within something else, and it has the clam shape. But these are showing the electrical patterns, like when you put the nail in the sand.
Yeah, or cymatics or something.
And that attracted whatever grew here and conglomerated, and then it conglomerated a baby that's like feeding off on its little side pouch.
Like that.
And inside of a rock, it wants to figure itself too. It's like it wants to divide itself and have like a storeroom and then the main goal. And then these were one of those rocks where we've seen on the beach of Japan, I think, where it stopped baking and then something tried to leach out of the edges of it. It's almost like this is like the completely pulverized, like plasmid to death, it turned everything to iron version of what was trying to creep out at the beach. And it got crushed or something. Like, could you imagine, like, it got so hot that it actually started drooping down instead of being round like that? It was compacted together like monkey bread. And that's kind of what I think, like maybe some of the bricks that are tightly put together like that they were originally more form fit, but they got hit with some high temperature something, and they had drooped for a second and then solidified because they had nothing to maintain the heat. And then it would cause this tight fit, groove like that.
I feel like those walls that fit really, really well together, that they look like they were melted in place. Maybe the wall was built a little bit differently and they did melt and bend, but they all sort of just re-solidified in new shape. But the walls look like they were built like that. Like they were like the bricks were poured into place intentionally to make that shape, and then they just let it cool for a second, dripped another one in there, let it cool for a second, dripped another one in there. It's really interesting.
I was almost wondering if it was like a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids type thing, but reverse, where you would take like actual dough, like a monkey bread, but you would take little balls of clay and just stick them all together like a wall. And then when you blast it, it popcorns into a big thing and then it hardens instantly.
Oh, that's interesting. Because you could have a city in your pocket then, if that's the case. You just bring these almost Jack and Beanstalk beans around with you, zap them with the right equipment or conditions, and boom.
Like those little pills you put in your bathtub and get them wet, and then
that's what I was thinking. The
sponge
dino
comes out.
Yeah, the
you
dinosaur.
Take a sponge, you show it to Medusa. House.
Yeah, house. That's brilliant.
So, glacial deposits. That's another thing that I was being told is this. Okay, well then maybe they're just, the concretions from that glacier. You could date them back, but I don't think these aren't sliding across Africa, creating large juts. And there's sure as hell not glaciers crisscrossing to make squares. So, nice try down here with the horseshoe crab.
Nice try, can't be.
Get out of here, blue blood.
Yeah. These are the farms, though, with those horseshoe crabs. It's horrible.
Yeah, that's why I made the joke. Get out of here, blue blood.
Yeah.
So, Australia has a magnetic anomaly. They think something got deposited underneath the crust by an asteroid crater with no debris field, like story of our lives, right?
Yep.
Oh, the body cam was off. No, nothing's crashing into us. I think our fields are working pretty well. But there's something underneath Australia that's magnetic. And what's interesting is the magnetic anomaly that's like the plus minus, we're looking at the big map. It isn't this. This is just a bad enough problem that's just causing local issues. But it's a fat iron deposit that's like right here in the corner of it, like a massive, massive ball. And because it's not welling up, they thought that it got smashed inward. But it's all flat. It's again like the same thing, the spider thing coming down. So there's craters could come down, and it's a huge crater, but it lightly the spider thing and instantly just took all the iron in Australia and made a giant core here. So whatever, it doesn't seem to be wanting to repel away. But the problem is it's a local magnetic anomaly between two other local magnetic anomalies that are trying to like pull a stem into Earth and push it out. So are they going to dig it up and mine it? Do they have the machines for that? Should we do that? What will Australia think? It's like all of Australia in the corner. It's this whole big circle here, and they call it the Delinequin structure. Denilinequin. I don't know, bro.
That's fun to say. Denilinequin. Dude, we were right there. That's what's so crazy is everywhere this anomaly is, you're pointing, it's in, Victoria, New South Wales, and that's where we were. Is right exactly where this anomaly was.
Yeah, okay. Does that look like a colossal asteroid hit it? Does it look like the wavy wood limestone? Like it's relatively flat in the area. It doesn't have any bigger of a crater than like a Maki made.
What's interesting too is the coast where we were, the coast was very, mountainous or hilly. And then the further you go into the bush, into the middle of the country there, when we went from Victoria up to north to south, New South Wales, it was just flat, dude, the bush. Yeah.
So it's like, it's
really
weird how
interesting
all
that
these
they say
tiny,
it's all inhospitable out there as well.
all the tiny islands have such high cut off, like cooked walls. And they get cut off kind of in half right where this weird core ball middle is. Again, like trees, they always have the certain angle through the center that we're catching up to. And they always have this kind of core area in their stump. And so if Australia was another giant tree that got chopped in half, it would fall in line with these other continents. They have the same thing going on, but whether or not it was electrocuted magnifies it. Mystery at the center of the earth.
I love all these title throwouts that you're doing here. This is great.
I couldn't figure out. I've been trying to follow the pole shift. I want to know pole shift. What's going on with pole shift? It varies though. It does. It's flipping like permanently moving and saying, but all these weird and not anomalies. Of course, I keep saying that. Keep going on. What's causing it to bend and flow this way? How do we not know? With all these neutrino detectors, do we have strong force coming in? Is it weak force? There's not like gravity fluctuations. The sun's not in the area more. The plants aren't being too different unless you cut them open really. So this kind of makes me feel like, especially down here, these ones is when you can't see what's swimming in the water, but you see the water and something big is moving. So if the moon were a turbo that we're putting on the car, that means the car also has an engine inside. It's a two-part movement. And it wouldn't interrupt. When you race a car faster, it doesn't turn over on its hood unless you do the maneuver that turns it over on its hood. So like this kind of just seems like we're in a giant machine to me. Which brought me to the Antikythera mechanism. When I found out someone put this thing together and scanned it in and made a model of it and couldn't help but realize that it looks like a moon map. I was like, why? Well, you wouldn't need a machine to control the moon. But if the moon were part of a machine, I would definitely want to know what it's doing and when. But that would mean that there was like a benefit to know, to either prevent something, avoid something, or to optimize something.
God, well, then we're thinking about these cataclysms and these events that drove people underground, like in Derinkuyu in Turkey, and all these amazing cities that go underground. It's just really interesting because then, yeah, you would want to know, you know, when the next plasma event was going to come out and create a Grand Canyon for you. Just be able to duck down for a little bit. Even the Hopi talk about the ant people that came out and saved them and brought them into the Sipapu for the last cataclysm. So it's interesting when you start talking about this because you would want to know, you know, if you could map it, just like astrology, right? It's talking about the sky clock up there and how it affects our lives. Well, if there's some, you know, pretty substantial things like the plasma man going off every now and then, and people have been around long enough and created systems to be able to track and map it, I think that's really interesting.
Here we are with our Earth now squished, with the sun going around, and then the moon. And the moon can affect wave patterns, create swells. But I'm like, oh, it's going up. That's interesting. So this tracker, I think, is actually backwards, but it goes around the spiral, and then it connects, and then goes back up. And these are all different moon cycles. And then these just follows a pattern, up, down, just like this. The wave goes up, puts it in the hole. The wave goes up, puts it in the hole. And it does so on a timeline. It's like, it's trash day, it's trash day, it's trash day, it's trash day. And the moon has to be there to dump the trash each time. You got to be up there. You got to bring the wave, put it in the trash. I'm like, this is a giant machine.
Yeah.
So if you had the moon on the outside doing stuff, then we have stuff on the inside doing stuff. So I've started looking at like generators and stuff with bearings that would work internally, that would be toroidal, that would be compatible with saline, that wouldn't blow up. There's like no combustion necessarily, which brings in what, lead scalings, flywheel or something like that, that whole concept.
Yeah, the Crystal Castle guy. Coral Castle. Yes.
Yes. And that this has to be cyclical in this way. And how, if we have stuff flying around and the moon's been here for however millions of years, and then there's occasionally black suns in the sky and everything goes dark, like this is like a machine on a schedule that's like regenerative except for some parts, but even that's done in a cycle, and like you fit it in to some point to get things done. So could we have survived without the moon? Sure, but would we have like xenon gases and krypton and stuff? Maybe that's why. Maybe the gas and mineral people came here to create some new stuff that they can't make on their planet. And they're like, we don't care that you have a garden planet. It's our garden planet. And we're like, well, we like tomatoes. And they're like, I eat kryptonite. We do this now.
We're on Anunnaki. We do this now.
Eat your pine cone.
Yeah.
So when I was following that pattern, then this would be accounting for. I get that snake underwater kind of wavy look, which I was suspecting. So instead of focusing on it being the earth or water, drift resonance for electrons and ions create this little synergetic wave here. And it goes up and down and crosses. And if you've looked at where all of the eclipses and stuff are, the moon does these like kind of like backwards S swoops, and the sun likes going in these kind of like Fibonacci kind of like half loops. So it does concentrate on the equator, does this greater crown kind of hamburger thing together. And then you have your other one that's mostly hitting the top and the bottom, only going diagonally in between when it needs to like just get over the equator. It's not hovering there because nothing does. Even hurricanes turn away from each other at the equator. So once again, look what we have here. We have alternating current in our machine here now due to this clock that keeps track of our not a fucking satellite or whatever everyone calls it. This is cool. Now, I can't get a straight answer out of the North Pole, South Pole people, so I went looking for my own stuff. Oceanography. What's the topography of the ocean? That'll tell me what's going on. Turns out we get past all these weird blobs on top. The bottom just kind of looks like a mushroom, or like a really, really rotted out wood. And what's interesting is there's a couple layers of flow, water that comes out of here. Water, again, the moon was putting the water in the top, in the north, going back down to the bottom to pick it up and put it in the north. In the south, that's where the circumpolar current comes out. It begins, they've only gone down to 3,000 feet, but it originates way below that and trickles out in 1, 2, 3 streams. Remember, there's 3 dots at the bottom of Antarctica that like all the neutrons are going to.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, this kind of giving me some Ultra Machine vibes. It leaks out of those 3 spots and starts going clockwise, because this is the bottom, so you turn it up. That's the counterclockwise, right? The moon dumping it in. And brings it all the way up to the top. So at the bottom, we're hitting 3 points, which have this curved rock piece actually underneath the water to help the current hit it, do a curve, hit it, curve, hit it. The little juts that I found when I was looking around, it would be like how a turbine does it. I'm like, I don't know if it's quite a turbine though, but this is the motion that we're doing. It's swirling it at the top, funneling it down here like a little basin. It gets purified and spread at 3 points and swirled back up. So the water comes out cold as hell and we have ice. And then by the time you cross this, which you could do in a non-motorized boat if you were bold enough, instant change. It's like, what the hell is that all about? Why do we have all this heat and ice like together here, unless this is blasting out some crazy shit? What's this weird like updrift thing going down here? Like, this is deep as hell. But still, these 3 little paddles, like one of the, are the neutrinos controlling the planet generators? Or are the planet generators attracting what got blown up in that universe's generator? We're recycling parts now. I don't know. But I thought this was really interesting. Just the streams here are pretty well mixed, and they still specifically stay like that. It just makes me feel like it's like, this really is like a cryogenic kind of a machine. Hot gas in the middle. We do have volcanoes. Those are real. Those have to vent. Those go out chutes. And then this weird spinning thing here. This is where, what is this generating? Electrons for the Earth. You need a cathode wall and a magnetic field to get the plasma flowing out of there. And what is that? What is that? That's a massive tree stump or an electrified cave system. Now it's insulated and a cathode at the same time. Stick some salt water in there, you have a battery. So when I see this in old manuscripts, are they not talking about the knowledge of this? I don't know. Maybe. Once I start looking at this, like I don't know, I get creative. I can interpret it that way.
Dude,
what the hell could they have possibly been talking about? And what are the odds of these three
Sun,
powers
moon,
working together? The sun, the black sun behind it.
Yep.
And look, this has the little cut right here.
Mm-hmm.
It counts down.
And then the 3 neutrino sites on the bottom.
Pretty much. And this would be quite a fucking beast to be raining down neutrinos if it's that massive black hole that's like holding on to, like, what is it? Magnetism, strong force, weak force. Is that what that is? I don't know.
You know, that's what the meteors are or something like that, or just globules. Or maybe we do live in a dome and it's leaking. And it's supposed to leak, you know, every now and then.
The condensation's coming back.
Yeah.
So what I found interesting when I came up with this little mushroom shape here, this is what the Earth's shaped like. It is both flat and round because it's a giant willow tree shaped Goomba mushroom.
Yeah, I like the graphic.
But when, like, I was thinking of Little Rascals when they're like, "What's your bank account number?" And he's like, 7, and they're just like the 2 kids are wearing a coat, trying to like.
Yes.
So I got the mushrooms like, we're an Earth, we're a planet, we're round. When a seismic wave travels through the Earth, it has a shadow zone where there's no waves, which account for Earth being a mushroom. What?
Dude, that's insane.
So remember when I told you I had a dream that had this like coloring book that came with stickers and I was sticking it on the Earth and it was showing me stuff? It stuck Nefertiti's head on the North Pole. And look I did not make this shape. I did not do this. Her head is shaped like that. This is what the waterways have done. And it's made these little lines here. And these are the different waterways because there's the 3 streams that exit. It goes up and it comes back in the 3 streams at the top.
Now you're talking like Mount Kailash and shit. You know, the mountain, allegedly the Black Mountain at the center of, you know, her North Pole, which kind of either spits out or absorbs energy to create this sort of toroidal reality that we find ourselves in.
Vortex microemitters.
Yeah.
Spin controlled vortex micro lasers spinning.
Yeah.
So this was cool. As if that wasn't enough, that it just like lines up so perfect. I seen a picture of the back of her head that I've never seen before in my life. And I'm like, that looks like the, oh, okay, sure. And what's this little triangle here in her back that's all scratched off? Remember, one long straight line that slightly veers, remember?
Yeah.
Told you we're going to see that a lot more coming up. Little clam things, but they weren't made from the eggs. They were little like battery cells that look like walnuts. You take them apart. Why do we have like 3 billion year old batteries in Africa that kind of work like these little guys? Like maybe you could go like, you don't charge your crystals at night. You leave your walnut batteries out so the Earth can charge them or something, you know? Where did they get the idea for that? By watching planet birth rocks? And they're like, you know, these have polarity?
Yeah.
Coral Castle.
Shout out.
So what I learned through this is there's the rocks, oolites. Like they get on the calcium, they grow from that. they can absorb and throw out electrons. So is it Huygens wave propagation? When they spin around, you need something right here, like it's kind of like a hula hoop, and it throws the electrons around. This was the core of his little thing here, this water pool, and no one could figure out like what it did, but it always had to have water. And I was thinking the middle like threw electrons out that got spun around here. But this is a moving wheel here. And right here is a little metal node. That would be the electrostatic electrode that would catch the corona electrode spitting off of this wheel here. What would feed into it? I'm not sure. This was his little box that had like a little door and stairs that went down. So these, I didn't design these. These are how electrode feeders work, and that's how I noticed he designed his step. And I didn't see that online anywhere because everyone asked, how did he make Coral Castle? How did he float these rocks? How did he move these giant rocks? Coral itself could be very lightweight, but kind of large.
I heard it's limestone, though, legitimately, that it was not coral. It was actually limestone blocks that he used.
Oolites can grow like limestone. They conglomerate. Like the rocks can grow. Like that's how limestone can grow. They can mineralize into wood and grow that way. Wow. But that's why it's like weird, because like limestone can be eroded though. But then if it's mineralized into wood that got petrified, it doesn't erode. But it's still called limestone. But when limestone is look like bone marrow, we're dealing with oolites. So I suspect that Coral Castle was seeded with oolites and the electrons turned it to limestone.
Damn. This makes me want to go out there even more now. Have you been?
No.
Okay, we'll go together. Okay.
See here, there's a regular brick pattern here, smaller bricks that aren't totally conjoined, and you can see this growth over it. This is in the forefront of the brick, and it's taking on that bone marrow pattern. This is growing up and like a feather and out. This seems like there's like electricity moving through it. That's a very electrical or magnetic feathering. Rock doesn't grow up like that. These lines like this, because even wood doesn't do that. So this isn't petrified wood that was limestone. This is like growth patterns on here. Exposed metal tips are on the corners. This is that sundial. And right in the middle of the sundial, he has a little, so he's just collecting electrons. This chair that he sat on, there's an exposed metal tip right here. You go in this wall or this doorway, down these stairs, and then there's that wheel that spits him out. I noticed the shape in the middle of his map of all of his little structures. And this shape is a shape that I've seen in ancient sites that seem like it's, if stuff usually follows a curve or path or trajectory, a fold, but if you knew how to gather energy, you would want to use its curvature and its motion, to just optimize it, bring it in, but you need to trap it first. And stuff doesn't move in a right angle. So anything flowing here, boom, trapped, and then it just gets funneled right here. They put their little altar at the center of this, because anything that flies in there would just concentrate in the center. So I found it interesting that he built one of those here. And then I think the little, the flywheel thing is on the edge of one of these. And I think this is where he put a seat. He put a seat on one of these. So he's working with an energy thing. And then I was talking about the wave principle. That's this water bed here that would be flicking these electrons in circles, which is interesting how these chairs are facing away from each other. Maybe it's like cathodes, positive and negative. But this feather pattern up, that's like a growth, like a mineralization, crystalline.
That's what, and I was going to say, it almost is growing in a Fibonacci style arc.
Yeah. Yeah, you take so everything just follows that, but you just want to like just trap it in there first. It's boxy. It's not going to turn around and go out. So you just like, I don't know what they were collecting. Is electrons? Were they collecting their own neutrons? Was this like for ghosts? I found this patent for an electromagnetic force field, and it just reminded me of everything that we went through trying to figure out what kind of generator the Earth could have been, because plasma shoots up out of here, there's some sort of like source in here going on. I just stuck Earth here because whatever the hell its core is doing and the layers in between that are working together, and then it's, of course, propelling out its 3 streams in the bottom jet. So maybe the moon had to have a bigger electromagnetic force field to lend to our magnetosphere because it's leaching off of our machine. Whereas if it weren't leaking off our machine, instead of putting all of our energy into unum pentium, we would be generating our own field just fine. And again, with these, the cathodes and this air out, we bring back to the 3 Nefertiti at the top, we get this arcing, swirling output jet thing that supports this patent number.
That sort of looks like the Jed pillar turned on its side there. The jet that the plasma jet's coming out of.
And then from that other scroll that had the dragon with the neutron dots, this is the same scroll, the Ripley scroll. And this is feather patterns, which, sun's electromagnetic. And then you got whatever force this is. I don't know if he's like tickling a guy out of a tree. Maybe the moon's weak force. I don't know. Giant magnet arch up here with the sun on top. It seems like it's definitely blasting some type of energy in here. This is the core. That's what we're all focused on, is keeping this guy growing strong. And we got our corner guys doing work.
And you get the 3 at the bottom for the neutrino side.
So all this seems very, very on purpose. Remind me of harmony of the spheres, or as Carlos Paris designed here, the twin primes, which could also be that egg carton nesting thing where, universe here, Lilith, Eve, Lilith, Eve, Lilith, Eve. And then you stick your atoms and your suns in there to give them all the supplies. This thing again, I have not figured out what it means. I just know that there's too many primes for it to be wrong or like weird, So if Earth is this old, how did I do it? Start at 101, you count back 2. So 101 would have been here. Then you would count back 2 of your primes. 113 was the years in between here, which I thought was weird. It kind of followed things up until we get to the point that we're not dealing with like sea life and stuff. Like, just like, what was it? The chart where we had like the big rocks and stuff, but we didn't have enough, the trees weren't eating enough cannibals or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
We had to build up, like the more that we have, the wipeout period comes in shorter and shorter and shorter. It's like we're we have to contract out because we're bringing in too much energy. Fish and plants the earth can deal with that before it needs to balance something out so that its lattices are in compliance with its neighbors. So this time period here where these numbers are in between these eras, words right now. But if that would have to be mathematical in order for here to all have primes in between it. Where are we at? 53. 53. So we go forward 5 primes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 73. The next one's 79. Okay, then we go backwards 5. We count 5 in between. We 79. I know this is off the chart, but 107 was over here. Then to go from 107 to 47, we count backwards 13 primes. To get from the 47 to the 113, we have to go forward to 13 primes. We have to go backwards 3 primes, go forward 3 primes, go backwards 7 primes, go forward 7 primes. What are the odds that that would happen over all these years? Unless, so these gaps in between, I don't know what else to make of it. How I found this pattern out, I sat here like staring at it, like it's almost like a magic eye poster. Like I wasn't seeing it for what it was. I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't pinpoint it. And I was like, this has got to be relational somehow. This has got to be relation, because even though there's so many periods here and so many periods here, This still agreed to kind of be a fair chunk, even though it was less going on here. And I couldn't figure out, like, these are large animals. They're producing things. They're large bones. A dinosaur is equal to how many humans? Like, this has got to equal out somewhere. So the only thing I can think of is something else going on here. Is it has to balance out with other planets, but this number structure here. So I don't know. Were we supposed to hit another extinction? Are we overdue for one? Did the moon being placed here stop that? Hinder that? Delay that? What if it is going on, and that's why we can measure neutrinos now? Like, we're in that quantum, like, we're entering it, but it's not an instant death and ravage, like rape and pillage by the meteorites. What if we slowly appear to live out our life stretching out in the black hole as it's happening, so we don't have to be recycled with traumas? So all these other numbers, it's pretty fucking damning. And so the birth part, just based on this, I had to estimate that maybe the Earth was forming in the womb that long ago. Was this the birth, or was that when its poles stood up? I don't know. So this has been like the one that I was like struggling with on this slide. Like, how do I explain this? There's something here. I don't know what it is. I'm assuming if I put it out there, someone is going to Rain Man it, and no. Kind of like this thing.
Yeah.
The periodic table put in a circle, folded over.
Mm-hmm.
You get to a certain level and you just upgrade. You know, it's second grade. Now it's third grade. Now we're in fourth grade. And we hope their fifth grade teacher is going to be real cool, but we haven't unfolded that guy yet. Those angles, get a straight line and then just offshoots a little. So I'm like, okay, are we on a round one? Is this a reflection of the other thing? If it is, what are we looking at? And then I noticed chopped right in half. Then we have the core, and then it offshoots at the angle, just like Ireland would do, or like Australia would do. But it always cuts at the corner and then deviates a bit. This kind of fell in line with that, but the rest of it didn't, unless there's a whole, well, this is where the Ouroboros would be going. The Ouroboros is the ice wall. See here, there's a perfect snakehead, literally in the terrain.
Yes.
That pulls these two forward like it's popping through.
Mm-hmm.
And so if this were a flat Earth map, it would go around the whole dome. So like, yeah, if there was a dome over Earth, it would be a coiled snake body. And so that's why I was thinking all the textbooks are talking about like the dragon or like the serpent that like eats the firstborn, like the beast of the machine, because then we have this curvature here that has like some like stress marks or stretch marks, if you will. But we start seeing that 90-degree angle cracking and lifting up pattern. See, right, all right in front of his mouth. And where's the magnetic anomaly? Here.
Yeah.
And here. So I was looking closer at that, and I thought it was weird. This flat triangle thing is right where the snakehead pops out. But the snakehead pops out at 66.6.
Why not?
The exact same place where we're going to have an eclipse this year. It's going to go right over the Ring of Fire, Easter Island. So it's going to pass Maki's crater, the snakehead into the baby. And it's going to be the greatest one at 7 minutes in October. So I don't know, like, do we want the moon or sun hovering over this snakehead and between two magnetic anomalies right now with all these cracks?
I'm gonna say fuck yeah,
upward?
bring it. Absolutely. Just bring it. Blue beam something.
What's going on?
Let's go. Did you know also,
So
just kind of a
looking
fun
around
fact,
here.
is that the ISS has been up there, the International Space Station, for over 120 something eclipses, and not one has been filmed from the ISS. Isn't that interesting?
Well, let's see what the turbo can do. There's anomalies though with this whole thing, right? Where the snake head's coming out. And I'm like, what's going on with this though? There's this installation downtown. There's an angel over top of this like domey thing pointing its spear down. And it's like reddish kind of geodesic dome here. I don't know if it was a library or an entrance to a subway station. I was trying to look that up. I don't have my paper. But because cutting right across this line here, what is this clock tower with this painting on the back that has a guy throwing lightning bolts at the earth and another hand throwing a pressure cooker at it? And then all this background looks like just whatever, like the code of the Matrix kind of.
Like
These are weird things to put next to something like this with the snake head. Because that was here and here, pointing to this triangle where this breakage is coming open on the 666 line. So does that mean like, is that when like the machine, like that's when maybe the black sun, we have to change the bulb in our generator? Our mushroom light bulb's going to die out?
Yeah, or maybe this side of the realm dies and the inside where the black sun is illuminates, ours turns black, and then now it's the inverse. And maybe the moon goes through the center and goes and hangs out over there for a little while.
See, I was asking about a tesseracting core. Where does the stem hole go?
Yeah.
See all this smoothness? Some smoothness-ish. And this looks like the very end of a tree stump, like gnarly root right when it goes into the ground. But it's lifting up and cracking open.
And this also makes me think of the snake in the tree in the Garden of Eden, right?
Pretty much. Close-up version. Yeah, it's just, okay, we have to give the thing with lightning bolts and just this like black blob hand. I looked up this name. It wasn't this. I'm like, I didn't know who the artist was. I couldn't get a whole picture of this because this was on Google Maps, hidden by this church. I'm like, that's the weirdest graffiti to put down here, you guys.
Yeah.
Next to this angel looking over the thing, looking up now. So what if we're on a big generator and the tree stumps are being these battery ports and stuff? Then that would be the best place to build your star fort, the power station, because we see that once these tree stumps get hit by lightning, they don't go nowhere. They are there to stay. Everything else crumbles around them, but these petrified tree stumps, they're not going nowhere. You have to really do some damage to it. These are not smooth weatherings at all when this water comes in and out. Like it's been petrified and it's like stuck in that glass state. So molten salt batteries. It has all the little cell structures here that you need here that are vertical and little boxy shape kind of. The wider slats are there. The wood actual insulation that's around it. This is a close-up of an actual molten salt battery. And it looks like Utah.
Dude, it does. Looks like an AI rendering of Utah.
So this is how the thermal battery would work. And this is what the plant cells look like. And then, of course, you just put it's water cooled. So you see, water your battery.
Or like the water that the nutrients that the plants pull up.
Look at these squares. Squares in nature. Looks like a giant tree, just like the edge of Ireland did. This one's older looking. And you have their big square ones, your wall, square ones. This tiny little line would be like our epidermis. This is like the plant xylem. And they're just like, fuck it, put a gate there. My sheeps are there now.
Well, it looks like a man-made wall where that gate is. That looks man-made, doesn't it? Or is it not? And I'm not seeing the right angle.
If I didn't block it totally here, see how the gate's going right here? The pebbles? And there's another one that goes around here. The pebbles. And there's a straight one here and a straight one here.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Holy shit. I didn't see that.
And that didn't build that for your field. Why would we go on all the hills and stuff? That's stupid. No, this was natural and I went with it. And then these ones over here, there's juts. Look, the dirt and the grass are falling down, sinking into the other squares.
Yes.
So That's this stuff. You got your squares, then you got your xylem wall, and your plant cell battery. And these are your cathodes when they're upright. Fell. Again, limestone, you guys.
That's all this. That's it.
It's mineralized petrified wood. Look at this. Nobody broke into the plant and built a little masonry brick wall in this plant cell. The plant anatomy does that. It builds its own little brick fence and its own vertical whatever. So a couple of them look like there's octopus little things in here so the water and stuff can flow through. Look at this octopus thing. There's a hammer right here. This is a coal mine. Why didn't this break down in the coal mine? Because it was petrified first. It's like all of our houses, we put like this little mason brick around the base of it. We're just copying the trees.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. How we're like looking at the structure of it going, yeah, we should build a house like that. Nature did
sometimes
it right.
When I see like laser footage of stuff, and they're like, oh, there was an ancient underground city in these little huts. I'm like, I don't know. Was it a hut? Is it a sieve cell?
Yeah, maybe somebody used it as a hut.
Look at how big these ones are. And again, the biggest ones, Ireland, England, are big enough to be like the Norse god's tree. Look how tiny these people are. Can you imagine using your dermis as a fence for your sheep? This is massive. Found this pretty funny too. Just like, look, oh, we got little bricks. You're scared. Go vertical. Just like the plants. And look at how the hairs grow. Just like the tree branches. They have knots in the side and they extend the branch with a root in the middle to get the water through the open middle of the stump, where the lightning would strike or the plasma to create an ablation and fry all that if they wanted to make a cave. And then you got your cave system or a quarry. So you get your branches can make knots here. And if they join in the center, they make one really huge knot. And now remember those geometric nodules that were carved by the ancients? Well, if that mineralized, like, this makes more sense now. Dragon's eye. And look at this angle right here. Golden ratio angle.
Also looks like a sonogram picture.
So we've had ones like sinkholes like this, when these are like the hot springs, and then these ones, people just straight out mine a circle in there and just pull all the minerals and gems out. That's how easy that one is. They don't break the top up. You'll find topography that exactly matches this still. These ones are usually caves. People usually take pictures of it from the inside because looking up, it looks like two eyes with a moon in it. You've probably seen a photo like that.
Yeah.
These again, look at how big this guy, look, nobody carved this shit. It just forms that way.
Dude, that's wild right there. That looks so mechanical and alien.
So this is under a microscope. If you look at a leaf, there's little eyes like stomas. A leaf can breathe through little holes. It looks like a little mouth opening like an eye. But it has a brick-like suture line. It's like a fissure, like a skull. This is limestone that just happened to break apart in a fissure from where? No. Limestone isn't always a stone. Like, look at this smooth ass thing here with all these iron nodules coming out of it. This one, yeah, it's ridiculous how big that one is. But look, it's like a geode.
That's crazy.
Like that little Pac-Man. Have you ever played Tetrasphere?
Like
There's like a character like this with the wheels that pop out.
Awesome.
Wild stuff.
And the upper right looks Fibonacci. It looks like an ammonite in the middle there.
This is an ammonite pressed in the top of it. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
But when it broke apart, it I don't know if it became like a fossil, and then the inside was like, no, I'm doing my septarian thing. So we've seen concretions. When they get broken, look, they split in the middle through the core and they do an offshoot of an X. Just like the wood, it splits in the middle by the core and there's an offshoot. Just like the top of the north splits in the middle and the core and it has, look at this feather offshoot. It looks exactly like the wood.
It looks exactly like that, dude.
And then here's some wood holding in the middle the core. A little guy. Now you have all of your balls from Japan and everything. Imagine how large all these trees were surrounding that up there. There were massive ferngully trees before people were drawing auroras.
Probably couldn't see them. Of all the fucking trees.
So yes, this was a massive tree. Yes, it is shaped like a mushroom now because it's a worn down stump. But now it's a baby neutron star core that makes gold for the Anunnaki. One of us. Jesus. One of us. Go back to work. Go back to work. So, 15th century, what do we see?
Holy shit.
A lump in the middle, painted with the four corners, surrounded by the circle. And the arc on the top. 12th century Turkey. This forking road, circle around it, there's an arc right there. These are when maps still said east on the top instead of north. So paradise is in the far east. And they drew it as everything's color, like in the things, but I thought it was funny, this other map, they did this face looking at each other from a vial, and they did it black like a black sun, I guess. Yeah. Pours out the waters that flow from the Garden of Eden.
Right. From the Mount Kailash
supplying the sacred rivers, which are like what we've seen flowing, come out of the bottom, and they swirl up by the moon, they go in the top, and they're clean again. So we want to talk about trees with a straight line. I drew a straight line from Thailand to the tip of Greenland, right through the time zone, and put a circle around it. This is, what island is this? Oh, sorry, this is a volcano. A volcano. It's not a volcano. Because when you look at it from the top, we see the curved line that stops the core in the center with an offshoot. This is a tree. When I overlap wood on it with the knot, see this eye here and this eye here? Whoops, sorry. See this desert here? And this desert here, where I'm like, dude, what zap, like Vegas is Nevada and Utah are just like glass bottle bottoms or something with sand on it. So yeah, this was once upon a time a core, because why else would the time zone split there? This is drifting counterclockwise, and why are these going in opposite directions unless there's something core there, which would support this line in the middle. But I just thought it was funny, the little knots. There's only 3 points. There's the center and the baby offshoots, and they go at this slight curved pattern, which is the golden ratio.
All right, guys, that was part 2 of the Family Tree of Reality. Make sure that you check for part 3. And if you're finding part 2, part 1's just back in the queue there. So check that out for damn sure. Thank you guys so much for taking this journey with us. We're going to wrap it up in the next episode, so make sure that you stick around for that. Just want to also mention that all this is found over at Patreon, but if you would like to take it up a step and support your favorite show over there, you can do so at many different tiers. Go and check those out, read carefully, and get access to all the bonus content, and as well, come hang out with us for the insider stuff. We do those quite often, and they're bangers, all of them. So check out part 3, guys. We'll see you there. In the meantime, though, go out and pick up a piece of litter. Be nice to everybody that you come across, probably. You don't know what somebody's day is like, so just kind of, keep that in mind, I suppose. As well, just, don't be a dickhead. Go out and fucking be nice to people and shit, and we'll see you on the next one.